Hi, my name is Thomas Johnson, and I'm the founder and CEO of GetUpNGetFit Wellness Coaching Concierge. I'm also a C-suite advisor and investor, and you're listening to the How May I Serve You podcast, where I'm constantly on the quest to surround myself with the best coaches while learning how to better serve our executive clientele by asking them, how may I serve you? Today's show is sponsored by Get Up and Get Fit. Get Up and Get Fit will be providing students with textbooks and school supplies in Cambodia in honor of our guests today, as well as our philanthropic mission to impact at least 50,000 people per year. Today's guest is Greg Moyer. Am I pronouncing your last name right? Make sure.
It's Moyer.
Okay, Greg Moyer. So Greg is an innovator, right? An inventor, entrepreneur, and now author / coach of the Inventive Thinking framework with several industry innovations that have generated more than 5 billion. Whoa.
5.5 billion. Yeah.
Let me go back. $5.5 billion for well-known companies like HP, Microsoft, Dell, and Siemens. His research has revealed common patterns and sequence to the thinking and doing habits of history's greatest innovators, and that anyone can learn from them. Wow.
That's right.
Billions. So I had to stop for a second and go back, because when I saw, not only I see millions, but billion.
That's right.
$5.5 billion of well-known companies. That's amazing right there. So Greg, I want you to tell us who you are, right? The 2-minute version, who you are, how you got started. Talk to me.
I grew up as an only child with a vivid imagination.
Okay.
But for most of my life, I didn't really know what to do with it. And like a lot of people, struggling to find their way in their early years, I did a lot of different things. But as it turns out, that really paid well for me later on down the road. I eventually, after some formal education, a little bit of formal education, and challenging a lot of assumptions in my own life and just in the world in general, landed in a really robust business environment of Silicon Valley. And when I did, I was really kind of referred to as the creative genius in the room. However, I learned really quickly that creativity is not enough. Creativity in and of itself isn't actionable. Now, we hear all the time from the World Economic Forum and all these different analyst organizations that creativity is the most sought after soft skill today. Because things are changing so fast, people have to be able to adapt and, that kind of thing. But after getting stuck, I started asking the question, what did all these other innovators that preceded us do? They obviously probably got stuck. And what I discovered was 29 common attributes that, and I call them thinking and doing habits.
Okay.
That all these innovators throughout history, Da Vinci, Edison, Mozart, Beethoven, industry giants, that can be attributable to them. And out of those became apparent a framework of how they approached thinking, how they approached life in general. And it was really a revelation for me at the time, because what I learned by studying their lives and what they were able to accomplish is that it wasn't just about being creative, but more about being inventive. And sometimes we call it creativity with function. But if you want to change the world, you really have to move the needle. And to do that, you have to go beyond just having an idea. And so what the inventive thinking framework does, for example, that I ended up kind of practicing in my own career and life, is really about not just having an idea, but elevating that to a good idea, but even more importantly, transforming a thought to a thing so that others can adopt it and implement it and actually make a change in the world. I really kept that as kind of a trade secret, so to speak, for probably 30 years. And now I'm at a point where instead of being a doer, which I've been my entire life, I want to help as many people as I can become insanely inventive and change the world.
Yeah, I mean, your trade secret has generated over $5.5 billion from well-known companies, you know. So it's a proven concept, you know, it's working.
That's right. And, you know, as a coach and, you know, putting together these training elements, one of the things I think that differentiates me from a lot of coaches is I've spent more of my life actually using what I'm teaching. And so, I mean, it's not just what, you know, Da Vinci and Edison and Elon Musk use in the way of discovery skills, but I personally applied this framework to just about everything I do. I mean, you know, it's very habitual for me, but I used to solve personal problems as well as business problems. So it's you know, it's not just for business and inventing, and even though that's how it's probably mostly been used, but you know, if you have a personal situation that you need to work yourself out of, or that you need to solve for, or you know, even a family situation, the same framework is applicable. It's basically a pattern and sequence of these thinking and doing habits.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Greg, I want to dive further back in your childhood, because I believe everything starts off from nurture and nature, right? Your environmental, right? Your surroundings. Did you always have this kind of thought process to seek out knowledge and to be innovative and inventive since you were a child? Talk to me about your childhood, right? Like where you were raised, your surrounding, your influences. Talk to me about that.
Well, I was raised in it started in a small town, in Southern Oregon, and then my parents moved to the Portland, Oregon area, so bigger, you know, suburbia, bigger city environment, but we lived in the suburbs. I think one of the things that probably had a lot of influence during my childhood was the fact that I was an only child.
Okay.
And so I was with my own thoughts a lot. And a lot of my interactions and a lot of my networking were with adults.
Okay.
Not necessarily with, you know, because I didn't have brothers and sisters that I was constantly playing with, right? I had friends and I had cousins. So it wasn't like I didn't have, you know, relationships with other people my own age. I did. But as an only child, you're hanging out with adults more often than maybe if you had lots of, you know, brothers and sisters. But I also was very curious. I wanted to know everything about everything. I would take clocks apart just to see what the heck all the parts were, right?
Okay.
And of course, my mom would get upset. You know, you better put that back together. Well, that never happened, right? But I took them apart anyway. And so I had this. I was constantly curious about how things worked, and I also, I think, and with kids my own age, did a lot of role playing.
Okay.
And so I think, you know, I had opportunities to just engage with my imagination a lot. I agree with you. I think environment is a big part of what kind of forms us as we, you know, as we mature and grow. And I think there's other factors as well. One of the things that I learned is that things like curiosity and are things that you can actually learn. I think there are people maybe that maybe are a little more inherently curious than others as they're growing up, but that generally, what I've learned is that once a person kind of finds what they're passionate about, then they become naturally curious about it. And of course, that kicks off one of the main skills that was revealed in this framework that you mentioned, the Inventive Thinking framework, and that is, questioning. And one of the main discovery skills is questioning. That comes from being curious, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So
yeah, go ahead. I want to make sure you finish your thought, because you're definitely hitting some great points here.
Well, what I was just going to relate that to, these thinking and doing habits. For example, in an interview about Stephen Jobs after he passed away, all of a sudden the name escapes me. Apple's lead designer. Johnny Ive. Okay. Yeah. So Johnny Ive was being interviewed, and the question was, well, why was Steve so innovative, right? And now Johnny probably spent more time with Steve than his wife did. I mean, they were joined at the hip, right?
Yeah.
And he said, well, number one, he was always asking questions. One of the things we've discovered, even amongst modern day innovators, is that one of the 5 main discovery skills that they all have in common is that they all score in the 70 or 80th percentile or higher in these discovery skills, and questioning is one of them, for example. And so those are some of these discovery skills are things that I think I started doing as a young person. And like Leonardo da Vinci, who was one of my idols, I was a bit of an autodidact, which means I just wanted to learn. I was a self-learner. I just wanted to learn everything about everything.
Yeah, that's amazing right there. So I know motor neurons are built right through learning, right? When you're learning, you're building more neurons. And it makes sense. The more questions you ask, the more you learn, right? Because you're curious. You're receiving more intel, more information. So your brain's going to be more stimulated. It makes sense, right? Opposed to being in a state where you're constantly being bombarded by I guess entertainment, or being stagnant, because you have to move. You have to move, right? Yeah, it's constant movement. It's constant action. So nurtured and natured, your exposure. The next question I really want to ask you is, what got you interested in studying innovators, right? These folks with curious mindset. Did you start in your early 20s, in your 30s, when you were younger? What time frame sparked this? Around what time period?
Well, it was about 1994, 94, 95. It was about 1995. I had started a new business in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
And I actually, this is exactly where it started. So I was working on a creative brief for a client.
Okay.
I got, and my company was a creative agency, and we were growing like crazy. So we had lots of new clients, lots of projects, all at different scopes and whatnot. And I got stuck. And, here I am, considered the creative genius in the room. And I didn't have it. Right. And I got a lot of anxiety over it. And it was approaching midnight on the night before I was supposed to pitch this creative brief to a client. And I got up, I walked around, I tried to do lots of different things. I finally remembered this technique that was taught to me by a mentor about 10 years prior. It was a visualization technique that for activating your imagination. And it was actually invented by the Jesuit monks back during the Renaissance, and it was used throughout the Renaissance by a lot of different people. Excuse me. So I sat myself down. I did this technique. I'd done it before, but it had been a long time, and it really did kind of begin to accelerate what I needed to do for this creative brief. The bottom line is I got the brief done. I pitched it the next morning, but I was so disturbed by this event of getting stuck. I came back to my office. I cleared my whiteboards and I said, what do other people do when they get stuck?
Okay.
It's going to happen again, right? And so I started reading biographies and interviews and workings and writings of Leonardo da Vinci, of Thomas Edison, of Walt Disney, of Andy Warhol, you name it. Steve Jobs actually was still alive at that time. Our office was about 2 blocks from Apple Computer. We were just down the street. And though I didn't have a relationship with him, I used to see him on the campus a lot because I had other friends that I would visit there. And so I started even calling my own colleagues and competitors, around Silicon Valley. What do you do, right, when you get stuck? But out of this question came more questions. And I started keeping track of, all these different attributes and thinking and doing habits that I ran across. And it created this mess on my whiteboard. And so I finally had to consolidate that into a spreadsheet. And that's when I recognized all these common traits.
There you go.
And I went, bingo. So what's the shortest path to success? Do what other people do that have been successful, right? So I started categorizing these attributes, and I started doing some research. Now, keep in mind that back in the mid to late 90s, we didn't know as much about the neuroscience of creativity and how, things like that as we do now. We still don't know it all, not by a long shot, but we know a lot more now than we did then. And so I became a student of the neuroscience of, how our brains process information. I was already a pioneer at that time of applying the tenets of brain science to designing customer experiences and marketing programs. And so I thought, well, if our brains are wired a certain way to consume information, our brains must be wired a certain way to be creative and to make things happen and, to social those creations. And sure enough, over the next probably 2 to 3 years, all of these attributes started revealing themselves to me through, through my research. And that's how I ended up putting together the framework. But that's how it all happened. So I was in my mid 30s, and I've been using it ever since. So.
That's a great story right there. When we're faced with adversity, we're forced to overcome by taking massive action, right?
Exactly. Oh, exactly.
That's like a hero's journey story right there. You're backwards against the wall. You took massive action, then you became. But what I really admire about you, even after your presentation, right? You went back to the drawing board. You were so curious. You went back to the drawing board, and your goal was to find out how to prevent what occurred to you from happening again.
That's right.
So I know after going through all those discoveries and doing all those research, I'm going to assume, but yet again, I'm also going to ask this question: is this what sparked your reason to become a coach, to provide this information to others? Is that why you became a coach?
Eventually, yes. At first, no.
Okay.
So basically, you know, I spent the next 30 years applying this framework to my work with clients and my own startups. I've founded or co-founded 3 funded startups, and also being on a team of an early stage company that did an IPO. And like I said, I kind of kept this as a trade secret for all this time. And then I was approached out of the blue by an old friend of mine who had become a publisher. And he said, "You ever thought about writing a book?" And I said, "Well, you know, I thought about it, but, you know, I don't know exactly what it would be." And so we explored this concept of writing a book about the inventive thinking framework. And after 6 months of trying to learn how to write a book, and, you know, I got bored. and finally, through a course of conversations with many other people, I decided to pivot that into training and coaching, because I wanted, look, people read business books. 2 days later, they don't remember half of what they read. And you know what? To me, it's probably almost worthless. And so I just thought, how could I have a positive effect on more people faster, right? And that was to personally teach these thinking and doing habits. And so the training kind of spun into coaching, and because I really do, I really want to help people not just be insanely inventive, but to change the world.
There you go. I like that. So that's what drives you, essentially.
Yep.
Awesome. So, Greg, I want you to, I mean, I know you have been extremely successful with what you do, right? But I want you to out of all your success stories, right? I want you to pick one success story. Give me a 2-minute success story of how one of your clients utilize your coaching, right? Your methods to get towards success, to become successful.
As a coach, or
as a coach.
As a coach. Okay. Mm-hmm. I would say the one that I'm probably most proud of is a coaching client that I have, who we basically put together a kind of a fast track program for them. So it's intensive, 2 days, one-on-one. Mm-hmm. I teach them what a lot of people would look at videos and learn in 12 weeks. I really kind of do that in over a couple of day period. It's very immersive. And then we do have like a follow-on where they get, you know, pretty much as many follow-on coaching sessions as they want or need. There's a couple stipulations, but the outcome was this. This person came into it thinking that they were doing this to really elevate their professional status as being an inventive thinker.
Okay.
But the real value for them came when they realized that they had an extreme family situation and applied the same, you know, thinking and doing framework to resolving this extreme family situation. And I get emotional about it.
It's all right, man. Let it out. Let it out. You're being authentic. It's all right.
Because who we are as people is not what we do for a business. And so I'm just very gratified that this person learned these skills and was able to apply them in, part of their life that really made a difference for them and their family. So
yeah. So this is why we do what we do as coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you say to change lives, you mean it, right? I'm a wellness coach because I love changing lives. I love seeing the outcome. What just happened right now, Greg? It wasn't scripted, man. This is authentic. This is authentic, man. Through your framework, through your influence and impact, you help another individual to overcome.
Yeah.
You help their family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing better than that, man. To help another individual. It fulfills your soul. It fulfills
It
you.
does. It absolutely does. I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yes, indeed, man. Oh man, this is great. So, Greg, are you currently working on any new projects right now that you would like to share with us? I know you mentioned. I'm not sure. Did you also write a book, or are you going to hold off on that?
I'm going to hold off on the book. I would like to write a book, but I don't want it to be, quote, about the framework.
Yeah.
What I want the book to be about are anecdotes and stories about how people have used the framework.
I like that.
And I just personally think that would be more interesting and help people as they kind of try to figure out how to apply it. But what I'm working on right now is actually transforming the training that I've done into a video series so video series in and of themselves are one thing, but what the plan is and what we want to do, I have a small team, is we want people to be able to, at their own, discretion, go through the videos, but they'll also be able to participate in live sessions where we will have live Q&A as well as hot seat sessions, put people on the hot seat, so that people can really learn and develop some of these discovery skills as a habit. So that's what we're working on right now. And I'm going to be taking on more coaching clients. Probably have room for another 8 to 10 over the next 2 months. Signing up 8 to 10 over the next 2 months. But the video series is really what we're focused on right now. So
yeah, and I also noticed that you're big into the whole immersive learning, right? Because you mentioned the video series and the hot seat, right? And like in the Q&A. So what are your thoughts on immersive learning helping to push people towards learning faster? Because I'm an auditory / visual learner, right? And I believe in repetition. I will listen to the same thing over and over, and I will surround myself with that information. And I'm able to feed it through my subconscious and really embody it as a habit, opposed to just glancing over there once or twice and forgetting about it. So tell me about. I know I'm getting excited about this because this is like my style of learning right here, immersion. So do you mind just like sharing with us a little bit more before
Sure. Yeah, I would love to actually, because there's two concepts that we'll be utilizing in the future. that really, I think, elevate retention in learning. And one is, so when we use the term immersive, there's really a couple of factors to being immersive. One is the actual media delivery. So eventually, the content will be delivered as an augmented reality or virtual reality experience.
Okay.
Because the more immersive that you can make an information consuming experience, the more you will retain even at that first time. It's off the charts. I was a co-founder of Flow Immersive. It's flow.gl. And we developed technology and software, the first software for developing virtual reality presentations.
Whoa. Okay.
And so as a result, I had to do a lot of research, right, on immersive experiences and learning and versus, total immersion versus flat screen and all of that.
Understood.
The second part to immersion is repetition, what you just mentioned, right? And so I don't know if you're familiar with what's called spatial repetition.
I am.
Yeah. So, day 1, day 3, day 7, some call it day 6, it could be day 7, then 30 days and 90 days or whatever. So we want to build that into, kind of almost like a reminder system, but also with follow-on sessions into our videos that we do. So to encourage people, watching a video 2 or 3 times in a row is really not as effective as, experiencing a knowledge situation and then waiting about 2 or 3 days and then experience it again. And then waiting about a week and then experiencing it again. You've got to give your brain time enough to really cultivate and machinate and develop the learnings. So that's it's going to start with the videos, and one of the other I guess features or design features for elevating the learning experience is instead of doing like 1 and 2 hour videos that so many people, online trainers do, we're going to be breaking things up into really small chunks.
There we go.
So, yeah.
Man, great. Listen, you're onto something right now, man. And no wonder why you are the innovative guy, right? You are the pioneer. Awesome. So, Greg, if someone were to inquire about your services or just want to connect with you because you're such an amazing person, you have an amazing story, and you're doing a lot of great things right now, where can they go to find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Greg Moyer.
Okay.
Feel free to direct message me or, send me a request. I do have a website that I just launched, gregmoyer.com. There is an element of the website where you can send me your email address and I'll keep you informed. And I actually don't mind giving my own personal email address. People can contact me directly and I will respond, but that's Greg at inventiveguild.com. The name of the company is Inventive Guild. And we also just launched an early stage version of a website for Inventive Guild, which is inventiveguild.com. So those would be the 3 best ways to try to contact with me: LinkedIn, through the website, and my email.
Awesome. That's amazing right there. So, Greg, my last question for you today is, how may I serve you?
Oh, wow. First of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to share some of my stories and spend this time with you. Doing something like, first of all, I love what you're doing, because I think it's really important to get below the surface of what coaches are doing out there and how they can help people. And I really believe that we are a lot more than just what we do for work and for a living. And so I really do appreciate that. And maybe we can get together offline, and I can share with you a little more and get your feedback and reflection on what we're doing. Because I'm always interested, to be able to improve and meet the needs of people, which is what this is all about, and hearing what others have to say about how we can do that better.
Yes, indeed. And Greg, I'm always eager to learn new things and have new experiences.
Great.
So I'm your guy. Whatever you need me.
Okay, fabulous.
We'll make it
I'll
happen.
take you up on it. Okay.
Definitely.
All
and
right.
again, this is your host, Thomas Johnson. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to share it with someone else that will benefit. And make sure to tune in for next week's episode. Take care, be blessed, and cheers. We out.